And here are Geoff Ogendo and Karsten Lenjoint, the guys reunited, and it feels so good. How are we doing, my friend?
Oh, we're doing great. Doing great. Thank you for having me here today.
It's all good. Karsten back again, part of the furniture now. What's going on?
All good, all good. Good to see you again, mate. Yeah, good to see you again. You know, it's been a while.
Likewise.
So how's your training been, Geoff? Anyway, I haven't seen you fight for quite a while now. Like, last time was your fight against Matthew James, I think, and that was about 2 years ago.
Yes, exactly 2 years ago next week on Tuesday. So a lot of things happened since that fight. My plan was actually to go pro in November of 2019, but a couple of things happened, and then obviously this year it's been a write-off for everyone. But that being said, I'm still training. If I've got a fight coming up, we're actually planning to get back in the cage early next year, so watch this space.
This is what Karsten and I were talking about off camera regards to the Battle Arena coming back. I mean, surprise, surprise, it might be the event we might be talking about, but here we are.
Yep.
So regards of coming back, obviously you lost the title that fight. So would you expect to go straight for title straight away? It's it's all a bit not in the amateur sort of ranking. It's very strange when it comes to. Are you going to amateur back when you return? Is it a professional debut?
No, I'm going professional now.
Professional, okay, cool.
Yeah, so I made the decision that the night of the fight, I knew deep inside. So when you fought for as long as we all have to some extent, you know when you're ready to move to the next level. So that night I felt, win or lose, I'm ready to go to the pro levels. So I was actually chatting to James, I want to say 2 days ago, I told him I want to make my pro debut on his card. I was actually meant to make it last year in November. So I'm going pro now. I've done the amateur game, and most of my contemporaries, the guys I started with back in 2011, 12, they're all pros. Some of them are fought as high as Cage Warriors, Bellator, I think some of them are in there. So it's about time.
So regards to the transition from amateur to professional, where do you feel is I don't know, what point did you realise you were ready to make that stage up? Because again, obviously the difference in rule sets, the glove sizes, the rounds, like it's another side of the same coin to an extent, but what did you feel was the point you realised, okay, I've had this rodeo before. That's it.
Yeah, I think it's when I started training with not MMA properly, and then we still have guys like Dean Truman, Carl Booth. I was able to train with them and hang with them, Joe Rice and so on and so forth. So those training sessions were really tough, and there were tests to let me know, yes, as much as I'm still an amateur, but in reality, the experience I've got, if I'm able to hang with these guys, I need to step it up. And I never sat down to watch any of my fights since I started fighting in 2013 because I criticized myself so much. But one night I did decide to sit and just watch a couple of them and see how I was performing. So I watched the very first fight, which is I think I had it in 31st of March, 2013. I watched all the way up until, I want to say the one, some of the hybrid fights, 2017, whatever it was. And I could see the transition, the improvement in listening to my corner, my takedowns, striking, confidence, all these things. So all these things together, and like I said, being able to hang with guys like Dean Truman in the training room, and also Karsten, because he used to really beat us up when he started, but we got to a level where we could kind of push him back a bit. So all these experiences, they let me know I'm ready to make the transition, And deep inside, it's just one of those things. It's just inside. I know I'm ready for that.
Making me sound like a gym bully.
You are a gym bully. You probably still are.
Well, this is the first episode of me and you did, Karsten. You were saying how you dropped Shane with a body shot. So yeah, you are.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
good old friend of Karsten. Love to see it. It's interesting you say all that, Geoff. I mean, there's a lot in that to sort of pick apart, but there's almost the maturity is the real sort of take home there, because it seems to be a common factor with that transition. That skill set, again, it's a whole spectrum. You get people all over the levels, this, that, and the other. But again, that composure, that sort of being present in the event, not just being engulfed in the emotions and the adrenaline and stuff. And now hybrid, that's the throwback that is. I remember you fought Antonio Luca. I think, what business did he have fighting at 70? But he looked all right, to be fair. He looked all right at 70. And he's fighting bantamweight now.
Yeah. So with hybrid is such a very interesting proposition to me. The way it came about, that organization, Karsten, I think he was reffing, or he was the MC for one of the shows. This was back in 2015.
MC.
What they were called hybrid. They used to call, was it Fight Light or something?
Fight Light, that was one, yeah.
Yeah, that was the name. That's the first time I went there. And the fact that it was somewhat a kickboxing show with takedowns, but no submissions, it really was interesting to me, because for me, I've always felt that I'm a striker. I got into this game as a boxer. back in 2009, and I always gravitated towards striking. And even Karsten will let you know, while we're training in the gym, I like throwing a lot of kicks and things of that nature. So I've always kind of been a striker. And hybrid was perfect for me because it lets you get the takedowns in, get your striking off, and when you touch the ground, you stand up again. So there's that explosion factor where there's no time for resting. So yeah, with the hybrid thing, the first fight I got onto that was actually a title fight, if I'm not wrong. I fought a guy from some gym somewhere down south. I can't remember what his name is, but the event in itself was quite electrifying, just in terms of the fact that you're using bigger gloves, you're using shin pads. So it feels like you're having a training session. It doesn't feel like a proper MMA fight. So for me, it feels a bit easier to do that. And it was 2-minute rounds. And training with Karsten, the first time I had a spar with him back in 2013, we were doing 5-minute rounds. 5 3-minute rounds. I'd never done that before. But from Liverpool, it's a 2-minute rounds, 3-minute rounds. So this was a very big step up in terms of just cardio, whatever. So by the time I got to the point where I'm fighting a hybrid, doing 2-minute rounds felt like absolutely nothing, felt like nothing. So yeah.
Now, that's interesting with the different round length variations, how you can then apply that. Because again, when people do the 5.5s or whatever in training, some people tend to coast to try and fill out as such, be more methodical as such. But some people try and burn out and try and use like a workout in itself, which, each their own for certain sessions. But shootboxing is an interesting one. We do a lot in our gym still for just general initiating takedowns and getting that kind of thing instilled. Now, regards to the habits you built from that, is it something you implement in your training now? Do you ever do shootboxing as a separate sort of striking drill as such? Is it something you practice still?
We still do, yeah, we still do. Just the thing that I learned from that the most was being quick with connecting your strikes with your takedowns, because you only have to think about two things, striking and wrestling. If it's full MMA, you have to think about the groundwork, you have to think about cage fighting and so on and so forth. So in that respect, I always found it easier. So I still apply the same lessons. Like even when I'm doing some bag work, I would do 1, 2, 3, try shoot for takedowns. I'm always keeping that shoot boxing kind of style in it. So yeah, it's still a part of my training up until today.
Now, so we jump around topics a lot, and feel free to jump in, Karsten, anything you've got as well.
Yep.
But yeah, with you're saying about the over critique on your performances going through sort of thing. Again, it's a knife edge kind of balance of, okay, I'm going to critique and improve, but also don't be detrimental and not my confidence. Like how in depth you going in your, we call it analysis now in regards of reviewing your past performances. Is it more, okay, I did this right, this wrong? Is it okay, this whole thing was just embarrassing, I can't watch it? What's your usual kind of take home from watching your fights back?
Yeah, it's not anything to do with being embarrassed, because for us to do this in the first place, you can't be embarrassed. Someone's either going to lose or win, so I'm very comfortable with that. It's more about critiquing myself, and I'm thinking, okay, my coach told me I should have done X, Y, and Z in this moment. So I'm looking at what I was doing at a particular moment, and in my head, I'm thinking, I should have done that. So that's kind of like where the critique comes from. It's nothing to do with being embarrassed, because like I said, it's a fight game. Someone's going to get beaten up, and that's just the end of it all. But with time, I've kind of grown to understand, to have fun with this. Because I remember Karsten, one of my fights, he just told, I can't remember which fight it was, but he told me, listen, just go in and have fun. And since that day, I always remind myself that. And you can also see the change from how my walkouts were when I started fighting for you guys back in 2014 up until the last one. See, when I come out these days, it's just pure energy, electrifying energy, because I know whatever happens, I'm here to have fun. So yeah, the critique thing is not about feeling, I'm going to lose this fight. It's just about techniques or whatever. But like I said, over the years, the things have improved, you know what I mean? So I can see the changes in how I'm fighting from 2013 up until today.
That is so important.
I love how you say when you're watching your thing and you're not critiquing yourself too much, but you're thinking, I should have listened to my coach more in that one, and maybe not done my own thing in that one. I sit and watch your fights and think, yeah, Geoff should have listened to me more in that one.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
Bit of bias there, I think, but here we go.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. I mean, that is so interesting, that transition from doing it for fun, doing it for the enjoyment versus trying to do it for the result. Because as much as you're trying to do the same thing, it's very much, the pressure is very different. Yeah. I'm not sure if you're familiar with, I think Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I mean, there's a whole concept in this about grading the students, not giving them a grade, doing it all for the product itself, and the whole thing, they don't know what to do. And then by focusing on the quality of what they're doing anyway, without the grade being in the back of their mind, the performance is just much better. So it's so important to really hear how much you're enjoying it more, how much more it's an organic performance. Now, regards of your like training and sparring, the build up to a fight, how visual are you in that sense? Are you thinking, okay, I've got 3 threes or whatever it is, like Karsten, for example, here, you guys are in the cage, you've got rounds to do. Okay, this is my fight, this is fight night, we're going to fucking do sort of visualize the walkout and everything, or is it, okay, this is sparring, this is the fight, they're separate things? Where is your head with that kind of side of things?
We tend to kind of visualize the fighting environment within the training areas, for lack of a better word. So I'll give you an example. Whenever I was doing pads with Karsten, I'll even take it back to 2013 when I started training with him. We did a little boxing pad work. And after every round, they tell me, before he starts, I walk in, touch gloves with him, and then 1, 2 straight in. At the end of the whole training session, done 5, 6, 7 pad rounds, he used to tell us, put your hands up, and so you finish that straight up. So we're always thinking about how you're going to behave when the actual fight kind of takes place. And for me, when I'm at home, for example, say it's like the night before the fight, I'm obviously thinking about the walkout because I'm there to have fun. I'm thinking about who's going to be there. But more importantly, I'm thinking about how I'm going to behave when my opponent sees me. The way people behave during weigh-ins is very different from how they behave on fight night. I've seen different types of fighters. They've got all this energy. They've got all the teams around them. But as soon as the cage door gets locked, it's a different scenario. In 2018, when I had my last fight, if you kind of saw what happened when it started, I did like a little move and then like bang, bang. I don't know if you saw that. I do these things because I'm very conscious of what it does to my opponent. When he sees that, he knows this guy means business. And when the ref is also giving you instructions, I never look at my opponent in the eyes. I'm always just looking down. And then as soon as I look up to him, he doesn't expect that because usually they think you're going to be eyeballing him, whatever. I don't do that. So over the years, I've developed ways of kind of visualizing the fight and playing mind games with my opponents. So, yeah.
Now, when it comes to mind games and like, not so much psyching them out as such, is it more from your own things you've felt the other side of? So, for example, with the eye contact thing there, is it something that's caught you off guard in the past where you've sort of thought, okay, they're going to mean mug me, but no, they're actually more composed. It's quite unsettling. Is it something you sort of suffer with, is the wrong word, but the sense of you felt the other side of it as such?
Oh, yeah, I did. Like when I started off, I remember my first fight, right? The very first fight, it wasn't even looking into my opponent's eyes. It was looking into my coach's eyes. So I'll give you a bit of background about my coach. He's from Georgia/Russia, Sambo master. So he really toughened us. And I remember after hugging all my team, I saw my mom in the corner. I saw my brother in the corner. That brought up some deep emotions in me. And then when I looked my coaches in the eyes, I shed some tears, you know what I mean? But then I wiped them quickly. If you watch my first fight, I was on like a blue rash card. I wiped them quickly, and then I came alive. So it's the eye contact thing. I understand it, but it wasn't from an opponent's perspective. It was just looking at my coach because of the people who know me. But as soon as I walked to the cage, my opponent could not make eye contact. He was broken. He was actually broken the day before because we crossed paths and he couldn't look me in the eyes. It was broken already. So the mind game things, the eye contact thing is very deep. I definitely understand it, and that's what I use to my advantage these days. I don't look you in the eye at any time. As soon as we're about to go, look up at you, do this, you know I'm about to come for you. You know what I mean? That
was terrifying. even with my bad internet and the blurry camera, that still sort of shook me a little bit. That's fine. I'll change my undies afterwards. That's all right. But yeah, when regards to like replicating sort of things like that, inspiring, do you then take that to a sort of similar intensity, but the same kind of idea of, okay, we're all laughing, we're joking, but now it's time to spar. We make the sort of, solid eye contact, a bit more. Try and get rid of the sexual tension if you can help it, but old habits. It's one of those ones. Are you one for like, not mean mugging one another, but try and set a different tone for sparring, or is sparring purely like a separate thing of just learning, developing, and it's not the competition side of it?
With sparring, we take, I call it a hybrid approach. So we obviously have funny crack jokes in between rounds, but as soon as the bell goes, it's war, you know what I mean? Because I always say this, we're in the gym to work, you know what I mean? This is an office, right? It's an office. You've got 5 rounds. You've got 3 5-minute rounds. You've got 15 minutes to get a job done properly. In between the little breaks, you can laugh, ha, 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 ha. But for that 15 minutes, we're trying to take each other's heads off. We've obviously slowed down a bit these days because we understand we can train smarter. But when you started back in the day, we do 5-minute rounds. I'm fighting Karsten. Karsten is a pro. He's training for a fight, maybe like down the line a month or so. So he's really in fight mode. Same thing with me. I've been fighting with Cincinnati for about 2 years. So we're always ready for war. So the training sessions were very intense. It were very intense. We've slowed down a bit these days, but yeah, we go in there with the same mentality: kill or be killed. Because fight night, the way you fight in your training sessions is exactly what's going to happen in the real kind of world. And like I said, Karsten used to make us put our hands up straight after pod sessions, and that carried on to where we're doing in the raw cage, for lack of a better word.
It also depended on what sort of style of sparring we were doing. It depends on where people were in their fight camp. So, you know, if nobody's got a fight booked, then obviously, yeah, we're going a little bit lighter, we're having a little bit more fun, we're having a little bit more jokes and stuff. But definitely if somebody had a fight booked, myself or Geoff or any other of the team, then yeah, that one person, when you were with them, you knew you were sparring. So you say if I didn't have a fight and Geoff did, if I know I was going with Geoff or Nico was going with Geoff, you know, whoever was with Geoff knew that, you know, that's going to be the hard round. You can have a little bit of a rest with the other guys because they're not training for a fight. But when they're with the person that's fighting, that was the hard round because they needed it for the fight. And we're all about helping each other, especially when we had such a good team together.
Now, this is quite interesting. Again, we were sort of speaking about this off camera as such, regards of Battle Arena in March. That say if you get quite a lot of guys in the same card and the same show, it sort of stars align quite nicely. What happens in that instance? Is it a case of everyone's self-motivated? You've got to push yourself in those rounds, or is it okay? There's 4 out of 10 of us training now who are fighting on the same show. Everyone's got to put it on them. You see what I mean? That sort of at one point this sort of gets suddenly converted to the one guy who's not fighting, and he gets put in a class with you guys who are all fighting, and it's a bit like, okay, what have I fucking signed up for?
Yeah.
So that would go down to the coach. One minute, Geoff. I would say that would go down to whoever's sort of running that sparring session. So the guys that are all fighting, they're going to have to be handpicked for the sparring together. Maybe even the 5 people. Say if we had 5 out of the 10, the 5 people might just go around with each other. So then they've got like 4 or 5 rounds as the hard ones, and they can push each other. So you're motivating yourself. You obviously, if you've got a team of you fighting like 4 or 5 at a time, then you're all motivating each other. That's the best thing about having, you know, multiple people fighting on the same card, is you're all getting raised together. You're all, you know how hard it is sometimes when you turn up to the gym and you just got no motivation, or your energy is really low. And then if, you know, one of your team thinks, oh, well, I was like that a couple of days, and then, you know, he kind of pulled me up a little bit and helped me, then it's my turn to help him. So that gives you the extra motivation sometimes when you're in a little bit of a group together that's all for a fight. So hopefully that will happen for the March card. I know there's Geoff and you know 3 or 4 other people. So what do you reckon, Geoff?
Yeah, I feel the same. I mean, as much as people always say like fighting is an individual sport, I still feel it's a team, because whenever I'm in there, or whenever you've been in a cage, you always know you feel nervous, not for yourself because you feel like you can handle yourself, you feel nervous for your team. So it's the same spirit we kind of embody in training. Obviously, you know, if I'm fighting and Karsten's fighting, we're sparring to kind of make sure that we are the best versions of ourselves on fight night. But at the same time, I'm not trying to hurt him, or he's not trying to hurt me, to kind of make the fight harder for him, because we know if you go into a fight 100% healthy, you didn't train hard enough. That's just how I believe things are. I've heard people say that a lot of times, but reevaluating how my career's gone, I've always had some sort of injury. Nothing too crazy. I've always had something going on. And that's usually down to the training. So with experience and age and wisdom, you know, okay, we know how to push ourselves hard enough, but not too hard to injure my opponent, or rather to injure my teammate, because as much as you go in the cage by yourself, it's still a team sport, you know what I mean? I mean, we've got 3 or 4 fighters on the card at the same night. We want to make sure that everyone's firing from all cylinders.
Now, that end of the last little contradiction there. So at one point you're like, you got to go in injured to know you've done enough. Then also have to go in, 100% good to go. Which one is it?
Okay, so let me say that in a clear way. You need to have trained hard enough to be...
Yeah, you got to push yourself efficiently, get to a certain level. Ready to go, fight ready. Not necessarily injury prevented, but
not injured. You don't need to be injured. Like, let me
a couple of bumps and bruises to let you know you trained hard enough.
Yeah, there it is. A few cuts in the face, that's fine. A few scratches.
Maybe not cut. Might get the fight stopped, but yeah. But yeah, the interesting part with this then. So obviously training with the same sort of group of people, and again, say, for example, Karsten would try and go for the same double leg and go for certain takedowns. You go for the same sort of switch stance, step offs, that kind of stuff. You pick up similar habits. So say you've got certain opponents with different styles, will you try and mimic those styles for your opponent? So say Karsten's got a fight, would you watch tape on his opponent and then mimic that style? Or is it general, okay, Karsten's got his game plan independently, and then he'll try and do that himself in sparring? Like, do you get involved regards of each other's sort of strategies and helping out on that side of things?
We somewhat tend to tailor the training environments for a particular fighter based on who they're fighting. I'll give you an example. In 2014, I fought in this tournament. I can't remember what's the name of the show. It was in the Athena. I can't remember the name of the show, but it was 3 fights in one night to win the tournament.
Fight UK.
There you go, Fight UK and Fight UK. Yeah, Fight UK it was, yeah.
Fight UK.
So on Fight UK, I watched the tapes of all my 8 opponents, but my reservation of watching tapes is the version you're watching of that fighter is not the same person you'll be fighting on fight night. You know what I mean? Even if the tape is a week old, trust me, it's going to be a different fighter a week from now. So I just take pointers from whatever they're doing, but in reality, I never get caught in how they're fighting, because at the end of the day, as soon as you get hit in the face, you default to your normal fighting style. So we always try to kind of make sure that we are the best versions of what we're good at. For example, I like throwing kicks and punches and all these things where we're at. So we practice a lot of that. Anyone else likes wrestling, we kind of work on that. But we do pay attention to what the opponents are doing, but we never get too caught in it, you know? Because watching tape, it's one of those things, you get too obsessed with the opponent, it kind of clouds your mind, you know? So it's a very thin line you kind of have to work. You kind of have to walk when it comes to watching opponents' tapes. But when it comes to game plans, we just tailor a game plan to the fighter you're dealing with. But at the end of the day, it has to be pure to you. It has to be you fighting the way you normally fight. You know what I mean?
I mean, this is the nature of the fighting side in itself, because you may spar similarly, get words out.
Yeah.
Got a podcast to speak by now, but here we are. But you'll spar similar, but regards to fighting, that kind of adrenaline, that whole environment, the whole atmosphere is so different each time. So again, your reaction to that's going to be so unique.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets, I like the way you also explain in that regard to getting the rabbit hole of watching tape and see your opponent as this sort of all-star athlete who's, you know, can't do no wrong. You think, oh, fuck, if I signed up for? Who's an absolute Khabib? And again, it's interesting having that kind of view, because again, you can easily fall in that trap. So regards of, like, not so much after the fact, like, how do you take your losses? Is it quite a sting to you? Do you take it very personally? Is it, okay, it's a sport, we play a game, I lost that match, play the next one? How emotionally attached are you to your fights?
Honestly, when I started off, the first loss really stung, because I won the first fight, I won the second fight. No, I won my first amateur fight, I lost the second one, and then I think I won the next 3. So the first loss really hurt, because I was feeling like I'm going to be undefeated. But you know, in this game, that's not going to happen. You know what I mean? If you go the way undefeated, you're either a Khabib or you're fighting tomato cans, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things. So when it comes to losses, I just embrace them, you know. It's the same thing I apply in real life. If something goes wrong in your life, you don't get caught up in it. You just keep moving forward. You know what I mean? Same thing with fighting. You go back and see what you did wrong, what you could improve on next time. Because you have to remember, it's a sport. It's a 50-50 thing. And like I said, you get in a cage, someone's going to get hurt. You know what I mean? So someone's going to lose. Someone has to lose. It might be you this time, I'll be the guy next time. And that's how I've always viewed it. It's a game of chances, 50-50. You're always trying to make sure that you've got the best chance of winning, but you have to remember anything could happen. So I don't take losses to heart. I just dust myself off. So I'll give you an example of what I normally do. So if I fight on a Saturday and I lost a fight, I'm going to go out with my friends. We're going to celebrate regardless. Either we're going to celebrate the win, or we're going to celebrate the fact that I made it out alive, right? Sleep Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I'm back in the gym lifting weights. Wednesday, I'm back doing pad work. By Friday, I'm doing full MMA again. So that's how we deal with it personally, you know what I mean? I don't take it to heart. It's just a part of the learning process.
What about you, Karsten?
I don't know. Sometimes I took it to heart a little bit. I love the way Geoff's always reacted after fighting. You know, literally exactly what he's just said there. You know, we either went out and we celebrated the win, or we celebrated like a great performance and the fact that you know he did everything he could do, and that's the only thing you can ever ask from somebody who you're coaching or cornering or a teammate. The only thing you can ever ask is just lay it all on the line, do everything you can. And Geoff's always done that, so I've always loved the way he's reacted after a fight, either win or a loss. You know, one of my favorite, going back to hybrid again, and when he actually fought Antonio Luca, the celebration after that, both Antonio and Geoff, was unbelievable. We were literally in the ring. The place was closed. The lights were on. The DJ was still playing music, and we were all in the ring. There was like me, Jeff, you know, all of Jeff's like fans and people come to support him. All of Antonio Luca's like people come to support him, all his family and stuff. And we were in the actual ring after the place was shut, dancing together. So just some crazy music just going on. And it was just like one of the best sort of celebrations. You know, you had the guy who won the belt, the guy who lost the belt, and everybody was just dancing together. And it was amazing. And that's the way it should be. You know, we're not actually going to war. You know, this isn't taking everybody to somebody's country. You know what I mean? It is a sport at the end of the day. And you don't have to hate people to fight people. You know, you can respect them. And, you know, there's always going to be somebody you might not like and have to fight, but you know that might be a bit of a bonus to you if that's the way it is. But you know, it's a sport at the end of the day, and you have to take your wins and your losses exactly the same. You know, you have to look at what you did, you know, be proud of yourself for the way you performed, and then just move on from it. And it's the best way to look at it. Jeff's always had the best outlook when it comes to winning and losing. So amazing.
I think it's so important, the fact you're embodying that, not just saying it. Because again, everyone says, oh, you know, come back stronger, all the cliches you get. But the way Karsten sort of painted that picture of that kind of experience, it sounds so like pure, sort of like, okay, we've let it all out there as such. There's no malice, there's no nothing. We used to sort of, you know, it is what it was. And you embrace the whole process. And that in itself is a really like important thing. Because it's so easy to sort of fall in the sort of, you know, let me bang bro kind of moods of, you know, we're wearing our tap out shirts and we want to, you know.
Yeah, it's not that deep for us, you know, because Karsten has said it, it's just a sport, you know. I mean, we're in there to have fun. And that's one thing I always remind myself. I'm in there to have fun. When I started doing this, I didn't wake up one day and say, I want to be the best fighter who's knocking people out left, right, and center. No, I just want to do this because I love having fun. And it's the same spirit I've embodied since my very first amateur fight. The titles are one in between, the losses I've had, it's always been the same spirit. I'm doing this because I'm having fun, but at the same time, I'm working really hard at it because I'm building something. So, yeah, it's always been like that.
Now, the wording there was really interesting. So there's this whole concept regards of building happiness and things of substance and success. And the real point of this is something bigger than what you're aiming for, bigger, the higher purpose as such, whether it's a certain title, whether it's a certain recognition. Again, the concept of investing time into something to then grow from it. I think that's really important. So regards of pro, where is your reference point for where you want to go with this? Have you got a certain, is it the UFC? Is it Cage Warriors? Is it just keep up to fight and have your health? What's your preference? What's your plan as such in inverted commas?
My answer might throw you off because most people in this game, they think UFC, Bellator. My head is in ONE FC. I want to go to ONE FC for a couple of reasons. I've got a lot of connections in the Far East, and I like the place. The energy in that side of the world is totally different from the energy in the West. I've been there a couple of times. Karsten will let you know. He's been there for over a year, I think it was. So you know what I'm saying, Karsten. Like the feeling you get being up there is totally different. The people are very different. It's just a very peaceful place. So my head has always been in ONE FC. UFC, obviously, everyone wants to go to the UFC, but for me, I don't necessarily have to be where everyone's going because we're all individuals in this game. We're doing it for different purposes. With UFC, if you want to do it for recognition, you know, we want to be the biggest name, whatever, that's fine. But for me, I did not do martial arts to be the biggest name. I can make my name do other things. So when I said I'm doing this to build something, it's to build myself as a human within. And I found the best place for that is to go where this whole thing started from. So I want to go fight in ONE FC. I'm already linked to some people within the organization. So the next few steps is to get on Battle Arena, get a couple of pro fights in the UK. Maybe when I get into Cage Warriors, whatever it is, see what happens. But at the end of the day, I want to be in ONE FC. That's what I want to be.
I mean, regards to like fighter well-being, outside of your personal preferences of being the general fighter well-being, the career development, all that kind of stuff, it seems like a fighter's organization than an organization of fighters. You see what I mean? It seems very much more oriented around, okay, this is well-being, more prioritized, general. I don't know, outside of the spiritual side of it, it seems a lot more lot better in the sense of the way you're going to come out the other side of it. But that's really interesting. Now, could have a quick shout out to our sponsors, the English Hypnotist, Rieco Clothing, and the People's IT. The English Hypnotist, really good for the mental side of things, give you that extra step in your mental development. Rieco Clothing, good quality clothes, quite a variety of products. And of course, good old Chow from People's IT and the Vegan Pizzeria. Vegan Pizza Company. I said it right the first time, and I messed up the second time, but that's fine. Go on, Carsten, take us away on the old vegan pizza rabbit hole.
You said it. Yeah, Vegan Pizza Company. Hit them up on Instagram. Anybody in the Nottingham area, local Nottingham area, hit them up for some amazing vegan pizza. It really, really is amazing. I can't say how good it is until you've tried it. Honestly, it's great. Ready?
There we go, boys. I mean, this is an interesting sort of thing in itself. So we came off like the very wholesome outlook of Geoff, good guy Geoff. So regardless of your way of viewing the fight situation, everything else, again, we talk about maturity and the transition from amateur to professional. Like, I'm only saying about ONE FC, but we'll go into this sort of tangent anyway. But where have you sort of developed your outlook from? Is this sort of trial and error through other sports in your life? Is it something you've been raised with? This kind of, I don't know, sort of letting it go as such?
It's a combination of a lot of things. I've had a very unique upbringing. The more I think about it as I grow older, so with the fighting thing, I've always had fighters around me one way or another. So my older cousins, they were doing this like since I was a kid. I started lifting weights when I was 14, and the only reason why I was doing that is because I've seen my older cousins do it. As a 6-7-year-old kid, my dad used to show us martial arts films, you know, the standard ones from the 80s. So I've always had fighting in me, Bruce Lee, all these kind of things. And then the other side of not taking things to heart, it comes from my parents, really, because they're very, I won't say nonchalant, but they're very relaxed. They don't let anything get to them too much. And that carried on to me as well. And then all the various people that came across in my life, from my coach, for example, the guy who took me under his wing, George Kaisidis from Liverpool, he had the same spirit, you know what I mean? He was in the Russian army in the 80s, so the things he saw were very horrific, for lack of a better word. So he was very stoic, and I took that from him. Same thing with Karsten. Karsten may be laughing, joking, but I pay attention deeper to what he says, and he's very similar, you know what I mean? You can see his lifestyle, the way he kind of lives. So I take all these different elements from people that came, even the people in the business world that I look up to, for example. People like 50 Cent. I look up to him a lot. I like the music, but I look up to him because of his business acumen and his spirit and his attitude to life. He's a bit rough with it, but I do take a bit of what he does and I apply that to my life. So the way I'm about, or the way I behave when it comes to fighting or anything that I'm involved in, business, relationships, whatever it is, whatever happens, you know what I mean? Don't get too caught up in it. So.
Of all the business people you were going to say, 50 Cent was at the bottom of that list I was going to guess. I mean, yes, fair enough. You know, I mean, he's you know, he's an entrepreneur, this, that, and the other, but of all the list, I mean, that was out of left field.
You'd expect like a Jeff Bezos or something. No, that's not me. Like I said, I've had a very unique upbringing. So the things that I see or the things that I look up to are not what the mainstream kind of look up to, you know what I mean? Because I tend to see people beyond what they show in front of them. It comes from studying human nature. That's one thing I love doing. In my free time, obviously I study athletes because we do that in whatever we do. I study businessmen, I study entertainers, and I also study criminals. The reason why I study criminals is they show you the other end of the spectrum. The other guys that I mentioned, athletes, musicians, whatever, we know they got to where they got to because they mastered the craft in terms of being a good musician, being a good businessman, painter, whatever it is, actor. Same thing with criminals. The big criminals we hear, they did exactly the same thing, but on the evil side. I won't say they mastered, but they really elevated their levels of understanding.
To the lamp, please.
Yeah.
Is this why 50 Cent's like the happy, like, you know, he's the Venn diagram?
Yeah. Sorry, somebody turn my light off. Carry on.
Yeah. So 50 Cent is a perfect amalgamation of both sides. His story, we've heard, he got shot 9 times. His music speaks about his life story, but at the same time, you cannot discount his business acumen, right? So he's the perfect amalgamation of both sides of what I study. Because like I said, I study successful people in the legit world. I also study criminals. Because from criminals, you learn certain things that you may not necessarily learn from the positive people, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, they teach you what not to do. And the lessons that I get from these people are the same lessons that I kind of try and apply to my life. Not every single thing I'm learning from them I'm going to use, but there's always something you can learn from someone, be it positive or negative. So yeah, that's what shapes my outlook on a lot of things. So my my interests and my peers, or rather my interests and my idols are not the average you could kind of find on the street or someone would give you. So yeah.
So that opens up a lot more questions, which I really like a lot. So when you say studying these people, what does that studying mean, and how do you apply that in your own life and things you do? So like, is it mistakes they're making specifically? Is it certain things? Because again, the nature of being an MMA fighter in itself, outside of just being an athlete, it's a very unorthodox trade, so to speak. And the habits you need to be able to be successful and be able to be selfish in the right elements, be a team player, all these different certain things.
Yeah.
These behavioral sciences. How do you apply the things you learn, and what sort of things are you looking out for in particular?
Okay, so if we start with the basic thing that I look out for the most successful athletes, if you take, say, Kobe Bryant, right, rest in peace, they used to say that this guy used to train like 4 hours a day, give or take, whatever it was. He dedicated his life to the game. I was reading an article on LinkedIn about, I don't know if it was Steve Jobs or one of these tech entrepreneurs, but what they do, the first thing, they wake up in the morning, they go to the gym and train. That's a very constant thing. I've seen a lot of successful people. The first thing they do when they wake up, they train, whatever it is. They may be riding a bike, go for a run. For us guys, we go in the cage and try knock each other's heads off, lift weights, whatever it is. But it's the same thing. So from that, what I took is this: you start your day hard, the rest becomes easy. You start your day hard, the rest becomes easy. So those are the main things I take. So these guys, they push themselves to excellence by, I won't say punishing themselves, but by putting themselves through enough stress at the top of the day to kind of make sure that anything that happens after that will not top whatever they've been through already. For hours, as MMA fighters, if you were sparring on Wednesday morning, you've done 5 rounds, five rounds, this guy's kicked you in the head, punched in the nose. By the time you get to the office at 10:30 in the morning, nothing's going to be as hard as getting punched or kneed in the stomach, you know what I mean? So that's kind of like what I take from these guys. And obviously the other thing is, there is no success without hard work. It doesn't matter if you're going to be a businessman, if you're going to be a musician, you still have to put the hours in. So these are the two things I've seen from all these guys. Even with the criminals, for them to be the super criminals they became, they put a lot of work into being criminals. Same thing with businessmen. They put a lot of hours to be businessmen. So the hard work element kind of comes across all sides of the spectrum. And those are the main things I take from these guys. They work hard and they start the day with a fairly a lot of challenges, so the rest of the day kind of seems like nothing. So yeah.
Now this is quite a poignant sort of point you made there about how it's the common themes as such than it is the actual intricacies. Because again, if you're going around, okay, Mark Zuckerberg gets Mark, his name is Mark Wahlberg. That's the one. He gets up at 4 a.m, he prays, and then he works out, and whatever else he does. Yeah, I'm not very religious, but I guess I've got to start doing that then. But no, it's the case of, okay, he's getting up early, he's got this fact, okay, levels of intensity, because this is where it becomes quite a balancing act. So when it comes to fighters, like overtraining quite a lot, which is a myth. It's under recovering, not overtraining, but that's another conversation. That's another. It's more so the certain habits and the take-home points, and dealing with challenges appropriately. And again, you made a very, very spot on point. I love this, and I say this a lot myself. If you've been like stuck in bottom turtle, getting peppered and shit and slammed and getting whatever else, you tell me your day in the office is stressful. You tell me, look me in the eyes after 5 fives of that in a Shark Tank, and you tell me you've had a hard day at work.
You walk in the office, you're punch drunk, you're sitting there, it's like you've been having shots of whiskey, and it's just, it's like 8:30 in the morning. So these are the experiences that I went through with Karsten and the team, and they really let me know that there's levels to this game and you can always improve. And at the same time, you don't need to kind of burn yourself out because tomorrow's another day. Because like I said, we used to train extremely hard back in the day. We still do, but it's more controlled. But the biggest thing that I learned is, like you mentioned, the overtraining / under recovery, whatever it is. I do not know where the line is. But for me, we used to push ourselves so hard, it gets to a point where you can't even lift your arms anymore, So it's been a long journey, but we've kind of learned with experience how to do this thing. But the point still remains: you need to start your day hard to make everything else seem easy. That will never change.
Where do you sit on that fence, Karsten? Where do you sort of sit with intensity versus recovery and balancing that kind of stuff out?
Well, like Geoff said, we used to train hard. It was just, get to the gym and just go, 100% as soon as you came through the door until your session was over, and then you go to work. And I like the point that you made where it's not overtraining, it's under recovery, but it's also, you got to find the balance between training hard in the gym and then doing a full day's work, and then maybe training again and finding the recovery time, because even though you're at work, you're not necessarily recovering that well. So it's a fine line to sort of find it. And like Geoff said as well, it's we've done this for a long time, and we train really hard, and we realized that wasn't quite the best thing, because we weren't recovering as well as we should have. So tapered it off towards like the end of us sort of training together and stuff. And then Geoff training over the last few years in Nottingham and with the guys at Nottingham MMA and stuff. So we found that nice balance where it's a lot better now. But yeah, you can definitely, well, not necessarily overtrain, but you can definitely under recover. And it's finding the balance between being able to recover through work, and then in the evenings as well, getting sleep, and then but still being able to train as hard as you can. And Geoff hit it on the head as well, which if you start the day with a hard session, the rest of the day is just going to be a lot easier. If you push yourself in the morning, the rest of the days, it just sort of levels itself out, and you're in the office or doing whatever you're going to do for a job, and you're just like, yeah, whatever I'm doing now wasn't as hard as in 10 steps I did, and then the 4 rounds of wrestling, sparring up against the wall I've just done, and and the shark tank I'm going to be doing tomorrow morning is going to be my hardest part of the day. But then it's done, it's out of the way, and then the rest of the day just flows nice and easy, and it's a little less stressful knowing that you've done the hardest part of your day first thing in the morning, it's over and done with, and then the rest of the day you can kind of chill and relax, and and then get ready obviously for a bit more of a technical session in the evening. But yeah, our hardest sessions were always in the morning.
I mean, fatigue makes us, it's very humbling and very humanizing. But one point Geoff sort of touched on earlier was about people like looking up to you as such, Karsten, again, as a sort of role model as such, more so the coaching sort of progression. Again, you're a professional in the gym, these guys are amateurs, you're what they're aiming towards. Did you feel that pressure as such? Did you feel so much you had to lead by example outside of your own sort of pressures for your own progress?
Yeah, I guess so a little bit, especially when we kind of really formed a proper team when I was doing my own classes at Archer MMA. I guess so a little bit, because I was the only sort of pro, and then Max turned pro after that as well. So there was like me and Max Cotton. We're sort of the only pros, and then we had people like Geoff and Nico and Chow, my man Chow, all coming through and all training together. But we train the amateurs. Well, not necessarily we train the amateurs, but the amateurs trained with us as if they were professionals. And I see that so much, especially nowadays in the gyms. There's a very thin line between amateur and professional nowadays. Back in the day, amateur and professional was quite a big gap, but nowadays, and especially like for Geoff now stepping up to pro, it's not as big a step up as what it used to be before. It is more sort of like a little bit more maturity, but a lot of the amateurs are training a lot more like professionals nowadays. And like Geoff and Nico and Chow and all the other guys that used to train with us like sort of from the beginning, they all trained as the same way like me and Max did, and Carl Booth and people like that. And we were all fighting pro, and they were fighting amateur. So if they're training with the pros and keeping up with the pros and doing the same workouts as the pros, the transition isn't as hard.
Now, this is an interesting thing there, because again, you fought my teammate Jordan Vachenik, and regardless of like sort of the mentality there, because again, he's always been quite that same sort of professional attitude, even at amateur days. And this is where I think Jake Cross, the guy who runs UKFC and a few other organisations, he has a term called professional amateurs, which I always absolutely plagiarise because I love it. That you get the people who take it so seriously, you get the people who are
the audio's gone.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah,
cool. So yeah, Jake Cross has got his terminology I always plagiarise called professional amateurs and amateur professionals. Yeah. And this is always sort of the poignant sort of step here, because when you went your 5-5s with 5-3s with Matthew James, again, the fact, I think both of you were planning on going pro afterwards anyway, and it didn't look well to part. And this is kind of the point. This is that building up in a sensible environment. Again, I like the way you're going back to Battle Arena to start your pro career from there, and then give you that platform to then go to the bigger sort of shows and from there onwards. It makes sense. It seems to be a smart way of sort of building from there. And again, as Karsten's saying, it's the evolution of the game. The amateurs taking things more seriously, and then the pros have to as a result. Now, regards to competition, that side of things, do you get quite competitive in the sense of your teammates are progressing? Do you take it as, okay, I need to make sure I'm still beating the people I'm beating before? Is it all internal, your progression? Where do you see your kind of that side of competitive?
Well, for me, for a fact, I know I'm very competitive. I see even beyond the gym. I'll give a very simple example. If I'm at a red light and a lady pulls up next to me, and a man, whatever it is, and I feel there's any hint of them about to get off the red light before I do,
just go straight into
best believe I'm putting my coins post plus and I'm shooting off. I've always been that way. I'm very competitive. I've always been that guy. Carson will let you know, if we're doing pull-ups, if we say we're going to do 10, I'm going to try and do 13 or 14 or 15. I want to get so far ahead of everyone to the point where I'm comfortable standing where I'm standing, you know what I mean? So I've always been competitive. But with the fighting thing, as I did this for over them so many years, I learned how to control that, because it's a very wild thing to have, and it can elevate you, it can make you fail. And for me, I still always be competitive, so that thing's always there, but it's just about controlling it, knowing where to kind of flick on the switch, for lack of a better word, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's always there, it's never going to leave me, so it's just controlling it, you know what I mean? Because one thing I'm very cognizant when it comes to competitiveness is, if you go to a new gym, or if you've got someone who's a guest trainer, a guest student at your gym, for example, usually most people will be like, okay, I want to test this guy out, and they go hard on him. And I don't like that kind of people. I hate gym bullies. I hate the kind of people. So for me, in that kind of respect, if I see someone new in the gym, I'll actually let him go as hard as he can on me, just to kind of gauge where he is. And then when I feel he's a bit too rough, that's when the competitive side of me comes out, and then I try to fully flatten him out. But usually the competitive side of me, it stays in the cage. As soon as I lock eyes on you and I do this, that's when it comes out. But after that, it's all happy, dancing, rare. But yeah, the competitive side of me is always going to be this. It's one of them things, just controlling, knowing when to turn it on and when to turn it off.
It started very nice and composed, and then sort of flatten him out. I thought, fuck me, okay. It's the composure that terrifies me, I think. I think the people who are like a bit loud, a bit aggressive, like there, whatever, but you know, the sort of composed, sort of, yeah, I'll just flatten them. Okay, that's fine. Please don't hurt me. That's fine. It's one of those ones. It's interesting though, the fact you've identified it. The terminology again is very important there, controlling it. Because if you try and get rid of it, try and remove it, it's nothing. You then don't progress. If you don't get a bit pissed off if you lose a round, people say leave your ego at the door. No. Ego is so important. If you can't manage it, that's a problem. If you're thinking, okay, I'm pissed off, I'm losing, I need to get better and improve, that's not a problem. If you think I've got to injure this guy, so I've got to blow his knees out so he can't train so I can get a head start, that's the problem, I think. Got to send him to Thailand for 2 years to diving to make sure I can get a head start. Now, when it comes to like competitions, when you get fights booked, does your camp change as such? Again, do you train in the same level of intensity in the gym most of the time? Is it, do you peak and trough? What's your usual, like, I don't know.
The only thing I'd say that changes is the intensity of the training sessions. And when I say intensity, it's the number of sessions. So, like I said earlier, we don't really get caught up in watching tape and training specifically for what X, Y, and Z does, because we know for a fact on fight day, they won't be the same person. We only get pointers from that. So when we come to fight camp, we don't even really say fight camp that much. We increase the number of sessions we do. So if I'm not training, Robert, if I haven't got a fight, maybe training maybe 5 or 6 times a week, just taking it easy here and there. But if I know I've got fight coming up, we increase it from 8 up until 12 sessions. So when you're doing 2 a day, sometimes 3 a day. So that's the only thing that kind of changes. And you also have to kind of watch your diet, what you're eating, because I've fought 155 and 145. Even at one point, Karsten suggested 135, but I don't think I could ever get that low. So the biggest thing we obviously pay attention to, is obviously the training session. So we do more sessions, but we make them quality sessions. Because like I said, we've kind of learned how to push ourselves hard enough, and what to do or what not to do. So yeah, that's the only thing we kind of changed doing fight camp. The number of sessions we're doing, the intensity, and we kind of tailor certain things to whatever the session is. But in general, we don't really say fight camp because we still train as if we're fighting tomorrow. We probably will be in the gym tomorrow morning. I was running this morning, and we training Saturday morning. So we still train, you know what I mean? The only thing that's changed is the number of sessions.
In the words of Chow Sun, I think he said it best. Camps are for kids. I train hard every day of my life.
There you go.
Something like that. But yeah, no, it's important though, because some people don't like to peak. Some people like to stay ready all the time. And again, it's how you, I don't know, it depends on the mindset going into it. Now, regards to the quality of sessions, because again, the frequency of dates, but the quality has to sort of stay. Are you one for journaling after the fact? Do you ask for feedback? Are you one for mainly, do you have like, how do you block out your sessions? Is it one's technique focused, one's intensity, one's conditioning? How do you like to block out your training as such?
So it's usually the way I do it these days. It's kind of based on how I feel when I wake up, right, and what I had in my head. So for me, I wake up early than most people. I'm up like 4 in the morning. The first thing I do, probably make a coffee and then start watching some fight videos or listen to some music, whatever it is. But if I'm watching a fight video, I might be watching some striking videos, whatever it is, and I see this guy doing a particular boxing move, whatever it is. So in my head, that's the thing that I'm going to focus on that day. So when I get to the gym at like 6:30, 7 in the morning, I'm going to work on that boxing thing that I've seen. And then straight after the boxing session, I'm going to go for a run, like a 2-mile run, 3.5 mile run. So that's 2 sessions done within the first 2 hours of the day, 3 hours of the day. And then the last session is when we kind of tailor it to whatever the fighting style is. So that's when we probably do like part session with Karsten or my other coach, Owen Comrie, so do some Muay Thai with him, or even Paul Lukowski, do some BJJ. So the evening sessions where we do the technique stuff where everything's tailored, but in the morning is where you kind of have free reign, for lack of a better word.
No, that's I like the way you're doing that. You sort of pick a certain element to sort of really go into, because again, with MMA, it's such a broad subject, and again, keeping it very specific to MMA as well. Because again, if you're working on like boxing combinations for boxing, again, the footwork, everything else is completely obscure. And again, if you're used to throwing certain kicks, certain combinations, it's then building the tools you've really got.
Yeah.
Now, how do you, up at 4 in the morning, should we let you go so you get some sleep? I mean, what is your usual sleep schedule like? Are you getting early nights and then early tonight, early bed, early to rise? Is it naps in the day? How do you survive?
It's very weird, you know.
He doesn't sleep.
I don't sleep. So for me, I was actually counting it down. I sleep on average maybe 5 or 6.5 hours a night, if that. And that doesn't matter whether I've had a night out or whatever it is. It's 5 or 6 hours, you know what I mean? And I sleep a normal hour like everyone else, like around 11, whatever, 10:30, give or take. But for my system, whatever's happened to my body over the last 15 years, 16 years of training, it's just programmed to wake up at 3:30 or 4 in the morning, regardless of what's happening. So when I wake up that hour, rather than just sitting there doing nothing, I'm going to use my time wisely. So that's what I said. I will either listen to music because I've got interest in music, or I'll be watching fight videos so I can learn whatever I'm going to be doing when I get to the gym later. But in terms of how I sleep, my sleep pattern is weird. So I probably sleep from 11 till 3, 4-ish, go to the gym 6:37 until 8, and then I might have a nap in the afternoon, like an hour give or take. But on average, I sleep about 5 or 6 hours a night. I've functioned this way for loads of years, and if it's not broke, don't fix it, you know.
I don't know what's more terrifying, the this
like
thing or the lack of sleep. I'm not really sure. There's a lot of things that I'm quite uncomfortable with, but there we are.
Honestly.
I don't know where to go from there. Regard to like fight days and stuff, where do you guys?
Mate, honestly, he's always been like that. Yeah, he's always been like that. Literally, I message out him 4 in the morning, going, "Who wants to do an early session today?" want to get down the gym for like 5 o'clock, and literally you wake up at 6 ready to get down the gym for like half 6, 7. You're looking at it, you're like, Geoff, what have you been doing for the last 2 hours? And then he's still there at 6:37, ready to do the session. Honestly, the guy never sleeps. That's why his cardio is always so good, because he's getting these extra sessions in on his own, just like at 4 a.m.
Yep.
I mean, there's with the cardio and everything else, again, the longevity, the consistency, all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
What is your bigger goal as such that keeps you, I don't want to say motivated, but it's more discipline really at this point? How do you get that drive to keep being that consistent, keep getting up early, keep doing all this?
It's based on past results. So if you do something and you see it works, you want to do the same with it a bit more, because you get good results. If you're fighting someone, for example, and you know every time you throw the 1-2, it catches him, you'll keep doing that until you win the fight. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with me. So when I was boxing, I was in Sheffield. I started boxing in 2009, and that's the first time I really took training seriously, because prior to that I was just lifting weights from 14 up until I was like 18, 19. I was just lifting weights, and then when I was 19 I started boxing, and this was a different type of training, and it made me fitter, and I found I had more energy. I was waking up earlier. I was getting more stuff done in uni. The music side of things, the education side of things. So I was doing a lot of stuff. So I knew that is a formula for success, because if you remember what I said earlier, one thing I noticed with all the successful people, businessmen, athletes, criminals, it's one thing. They work extremely hard at what they do, and they tend to do the hardest things in the morning. So I've always had that in my head, and it kind of ties into I wake up early. So the only thing that's kept me pushing with all these years in the game, all these experiences I've had, that makes me still wake up at 5 a.m, do whatever it is purely based off the fact that I've had success in the past doing that. And like I said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? So that's what keeps me going. I've seen previous success from doing that, and just keep pushing. So
that's a very, very good point still, the music. I forgot about that. So again, you're training, you're doing nights doing that, and you're waking up at 4. I mean, how are you still awake?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think if you've got a passion for something, right? If you've got a passion for something, you'll find time for it. And I told you earlier, I feel I had a very weird upbringing, a very unique upbringing. I discovered my passions early, like the things that I love doing. When I say passions, I say things that you do in your free time that you don't feel like you need to get paid for. Things you just love to do that come natural to you. For me, fighting came natural because I was watching martial arts fights when I was 6, 7. With the music thing, I got my first keyboard when I was 6 years old, and I still have keyboards around me all the time, right? So the music thing never went away. So with the music was about 6 or 7, and with the business side, I've always been in a family that had businessmen and women, and even as I grew older, I had people like in different areas of my life with different businesses or whatever. So I discovered the things that I enjoyed early on. So music, fighting, and technology. So the computer side of things, I found all these things out early. So I was advantaged in that sense where I was exposed to all these things from a young age. So I just focused on things that made me happy. And it just so happened 20 years down the line, 25 years down the line, these are the things that are feeding me today. These are the things that made me who I am today. So it kind of ties into why I wake up at 5 a.m, whatever it is, because I'm doing things that I've been doing since I was a kid. It's just that I'm a bit more older. I've got a bit more energy, and I understand the things I'm doing much more. But yeah, that's what it is. It's just doing things that I love doing.
Now, there's interesting, the terminology is a key word here again. The fact it's creative projects, it's investing in things, it's a game, it's a business.
Yeah.
What is fighting to you at that point then? Is it a business? Is it a career? Is it a passion you're exploring in its own right? What does fighting mean to you at that point?
Fighting is definitely a career, it is a business, and it's a passion. It's all those 3 things. Anything I do is all those 3 things. With fighting, it's a passion because, like I said, I was doing this since I was a kid, you know. We'd watch martial arts films and then we'd fight each other. My brother and I, Fred, big guy, don't know if you met Fred. So Fred and I would fight each other. Yeah, big Fred. So we'd fight each other based off what we'd seen in these films. And then that's the passion side of it. The business side of it, obviously, being a pro fighter, I've paid my dues as an amateur. I need to get paid for this now. And also the business side of it, it's opened a lot of doors for me. I'm involved in a lot of projects that most of the people I've met were from the fighting world. So it means a lot to me, more than just me waking up in the morning and lifting weights and punching someone in the mouth. It means a lot to me because it made me who I am today. And everything that I do, I always tell people when they ask me, how are you able to do all these things that you do without burning out or getting tired? I said this earlier, if you start your day hard, everything else becomes easy. And the biggest thing I will tell people is you do things that make you happy. You know what I mean? Fighting makes me happy. You know what I mean? I don't care about the injuries or whatever it is. It makes me happy. Just purely fighting makes me happy. As an amateur, you pay for all these training sessions. You don't get paid to fight. I've actually paid for my friends to come to watch me fight. That's how much I love this game. So it's always been a passion, and it's opened so many doors for me. And it's also a creative thing. I view music and fighting and web design and dancing as the same thing. It's just expressing yourself in one or another. As fighters, we express ourselves physically with someone getting the brunt of it. Dancing is physically, but no one's getting hurt. Music is whether playing keyboards, still physical, whatever it is. Web design, painting, it's all the same thing. It's just expressing yourself. It's all art to me, but it's just different ways of expressing your art. And it just so happens fighting is the physical side of art that I gravitated towards the most. I like dancing too, but music is all right, but fighting is better. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, this is it. It's been absolutely so insightful chatting to you, Geoff. Thanks so much for your time. Where can people find you on their social media?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram.com/Geoff Ogendo. That's GEOFFOGENDO. And also you can follow my brand. That's the new business, T3Flive.com. You can see the poster back there. So that's Instagram.com/T3Flive. Or if you follow any of Karsten's socials, you can find me through that. The website's www.T3Flive.com. We've got more items dropping. We've got some tracksuits coming. We've got bags coming, T-shirts, everything. Yeah, we're taking over this world. And Battle Arena March next year.
Oh, I love it. Feeling hyped. So what is T3F before we wrap things up then? What?
Well, that stands for tequila to the face. So there's 3 T's. Tequila, this first T, 2, second T, the, third T, and then face. Live. So it's tequila to the face live because we do live events. Obviously with COVID, we can't do nothing live. So right now we're selling a lot of merchandise, putting up music mixes. Yeah, so that's what it stands for, tequila to the face live. It's all having fun, entertainment. It's a creative thing for me again, you know what I mean? So yeah, just another way to kind of express myself.
Amazing. Be sure to check them out, guys. Karsten, what about you?
Me, yep, just hit me up. Instagram, as always, Karsten Lenjoint, and Facebook, Karsten M. Lenjoint.